Welcome in, welcome in. Welcome in to another episode of the Weekly Sports Show where I cover the top topics in sports and go over just what's viral, what's happening, give my insights, give my thoughts. I got a great show lined up tonight. Let me get some light on here. I'm looking a little dark. Let's get a little light. There we go. Get some light in here. All right, so I got a great show lined up for us tonight. So tonight we're going to go, first we're going to cover the Cavs. The Cavs sweep the Heat. Nobody surprised, nobody shocked. Everybody expected the Cavs to win that series. They did that handily, never seeming like they were going to lose a game. So they're moving on to play the Indiana Pacers. Game 1 is tomorrow. At the time of recording this is Saturday, May 3rd. So that game is tomorrow, 6 p.m. They'll be playing in Cleveland. Cleveland has home court advantage. So I'll just do a quick update on where things are with the NBA playoffs. After the NBA playoffs, we'll be taking it back to 2004. All throughout the week, a lot of people have been talking about Coach Prime, talking about Shedeur, talking about how Shedeur failed. Everybody's giving their reasons why. I'm going to give my reasons why. And I'm going to lay that out with a lot of evidence. It's actually one of the benefits of me doing my show on Saturdays. I get to go through the entire week and just kind of look at how all the top stories are covered. And that's where I get to see some of the things that slip through the cracks, a little bit of information as it kind of drips out from all different places. So I'll get my take there. We'll look at what Coach Prime said and what seemingly made so many owners upset. And then, I'll give my insight on how I view just the overall situation with Shedeur and the Browns moving forward. And I'll lay that out with evidence. We're also going to take a look at, are NFL teams good at evaluating quarterbacks? There's been some scatter this week about how basically NFL teams go through a certain process with how they select quarterbacks. So we're just going to kind of pull the receipts and we're going to go back about 15 years and just see, are they actually good at it? Because they want us to believe that they're good at it when they feel strongly about something. But we can look back to, the last 15 years and see, are they always good at it? Are they okay at it? Or are they below average at it? So we're going to kind of look at NFL teams and see what they've done the last 15 years. So that's going to be the show. I believe it's going to be really good. Got a lot of good information coming from a lot of different viewpoints. And you might be surprised that when some of these owners actually started to take Shedeur off their draft board, because we learned this week that some owners told their team executives, hey, take him off the board. The funny thing is a lot of that happened prior to anybody ever talking to Shedeur. Questions that need to be answered, right? All right, so follow me on X, Off the Record D. Follow me on Twitch. Follow me on TikTok. I do my live streams there on X, Twitch, and TikTok. And then you can catch my replays on YouTube. Starting with this episode, I'll be getting the replays. I'll just get the full-length replay out the very next day. So I'll have that out tomorrow on YouTube so you can listen to it in full. It will be more podcast style. I'll probably take some of the clips out because some of it's not YouTube friendly. And just let it play out so you'll just be something you can ride and listen to for a couple hours if you're out working, doing yard work or whatever you're doing this time of year. So follow me, Off the Record D, on all platforms. And now let's get to it. Let's see. Let's get to it. All right, so the first subject is going to be the Cavs and NBA playoffs. I know with all the news going on with Shedeur and everybody talking about Shedeur, a lot of people actually forgot that it's playoff time. LeBron was eliminated. LeBron and the Lakers, Luka were eliminated by the Minnesota Timberwolves. I don't know if anybody picked that series to go that way. So let's go through all of the second round series, and then I'll give some updates on what I believe will happen in the next round. So starting with the Thunder, we got Game 7 tonight. We got the Nuggets and the Clippers. I'm actually going to take the Nuggets. The Nuggets are the home team. I'm going to give them a slight edge, so I'll take the Nuggets. They'll be going on to face the Thunder. If it's Nugget, actually it doesn't matter. If it's Thunder versus Nuggets, Thunder versus Clippers, and both of those, I would take the Thunder to go to the next round. If we're looking at Timberwolves, so Minnesota versus the Rockets or the Warriors, I would take Minnesota in both of those. I think the Rockets will have a better chance because they have bigger guys, bigger lineups with Sengun and Steven Adams, and I think they can also kind of exploit Rudy Gobert being out there more so than the Lakers. Lakers just didn't have enough bigs to exploit that matchup. Coming on over to the East, Knicks Celtics. This is going to be it's going to be an easy series for the Celtics. The Knicks, they got away with some things that shout out to Miguel for the follow. The Knicks got away with some things versus Detroit where they potentially should have lost to Detroit. So just if you look at it where they should have lost to Detroit, they kind of squeezed by them. 2 controversial calls at the end of a couple games. They end up winning. I think the longest that series goes will be 5 games. Then we got the Cavs and the Pacers. I think this is more even matchup. I think the Cavs will win this in 6 games. I don't believe the Pacers can beat the Cavs in a full series, but I think they can get 2 off of them because they are long, athletic team that gets out, they run, they shoot threes, really well-balanced team. I don't know how well they'll be able to stop the Cavs offensively, but I think they can get 2 off of the Cavs. So let me know if y'all feel differently about my picks. So going into the next round, just to break it down really quickly, I got the Cavs winning, I got the Celtics winning, I got Minnesota winning, and I got the Thunder winning in the next round. And then, of course, when this round is complete, we'll be, just kind of updating a recap and seeing how I did, how my picks went. Right. The first round of the NBA playoffs is not as exciting because you usually have teams that are severely they're overpowering the other team. So as we get down and the series get better, that's when we'll definitely dig in and do more coverage of the NBA playoffs. I mean, I'm watching every Cavs game. I'm just not really reporting on it like that just because they aren't the most competitive right now with them just kind of smacking the Heat. It was funny. Tyler Hero said they wouldn't lose 4-0 and they end up losing 4-0. So kind of funny. Next thing we're going to get to, let me get this updated. So pretty quick first quarter there. First quarter, just going through the NBA and how things are. Let's see, we're in the second quarter now, so let's get this updated. Second quarter, we're gonna go a little throwback to 2004. Now I know a lot of people watching me. You probably have heard stories about this, but you probably don't really remember how it actually went down. So 2004, just to give you an update while I get this pulled up on the screen here. So in 2004, Eli Manning was the projected number 1 overall pick. And why is that important? That's important because
craziest NFL.
Sorry. That's important because his father, we're going to leave that there for a second. Eli's father, Archie Manning, he bit the bullet and said that he didn't want Eli to play for the San Diego Chargers. They did not like the way the Chargers were ran at the time, and they were not going to play. They had some ideas of what they were going to do if they were drafted by the Chargers, and none of them included actually playing for the Chargers. Now, the reason why this story is very vital to go over right now is because what we're learning is NFL owners took exception to something that Deion Sanders' Coach Prime said. We're going to play what Coach Prime said, and then we're going to take it back to 2004. So you can see the difference and how these things actually played out. And this also leads into what I believe the issue was. I believe it was a power issue with Shedeur dropping in the draft. I don't believe it was a talent issue. So I just want to make that clear and say that first. So let's get to our first video, fair use. I'm going to use quite a few videos to go through and show, just kind of put my case together on how I feel, the way I feel about the subjects we'll be covering tonight. So this is the first clip right here. This is Coach Prime, Deion Sanders on, I believe it's the Tamara Hall show. I believe that's her name. Sorry if I didn't pronounce it correctly, but let's get to the clip.
That if the right team does not pick him, that you will intervene.
That's my son. It's not like who I would like for him to play for. It's a couple teams that I won't allow him to play for. It's almost like you got a child that's going into an occupation that you already dominated in. Like, come on. And you don't think I'm not gonna sit there like a navigational system and tell him take a right there, take a left right there, take a.
All right, so that is the clip. That's as much as the clip as we actually need right now. So you see, he's basically saying, "Hey, there's some organizations who aren't ran well. I don't like what they're doing. I don't like. We don't need this. We don't need that clip. I don't like how they're doing things. So we're going to not allow him to go there." Which, I mean, remember, it's the Hall of Fame. And then it's the people who are known as the greatest of all time at their position and potentially in the sport altogether. Deion Sanders, in my opinion, would be in the greatest of all time to ever play the game, which is a different level, I believe, of the Hall of Fame. And if he can't use his power to influence where his son goes, then who can actually use it? So now let's take it back. Now we're going back to 2004. 2004 draft. I believe this is a better one.
Leading up to the draft.
Actually, no, let's play this first. So I got two clips here. We're going to play this one about the stories, and then actually we're going to hear it directly from Eli, how and why 2004 draft played out the way it did. Let's go. Fair use for all the clips I'm using. This is the first one.
NFL draft day trades. The San Diego Chargers had the #1 pick in the 2004 NFL draft, and their choice was clear, Eli Manning. But there was just one problem. He refused to play for them. You see, Eli and his family, especially his father, NFL legend Archie Manning, wanted no part of the Chargers. The team was struggling, and they had zero plans to trade the pick. But what happened next shocked everyone. The Chargers drafted Manning anyway, forcing one of the most awkward draft moments ever. He held up the jersey, but his face said it all. He wasn't staying. Then, just 45 minutes later, everything changed. The New York Giants swooped in and pulled off one of the craziest draft day trades in NFL history. They sent Phillip Rivers, a future first-round pick, and multiple other picks to the Chargers in exchange for Manning. At first, people doubted if it was worth it. But under Tom Coughlin's coaching, Eli Manning became a legend, winning 2 Super Bowls, both against Tom Brady the GOAT. Meanwhile, Phillip Rivers put up Hall of Fame numbers in San Diego, but never won a ring. So, did the Giants make the right call, or did the Chargers actually win the trade? Craziest NFL draft day trades. The San Diego Chargers.
All right, so y'all see that there. So that's the lead in. So basically he said, I'm not playing for them. So now let's go. And let's go to Eli actually breaking this down.
The story was Eli does not want to play for the Chargers. And if the Chargers draft him, he'll refuse to play. Now people say it was your agent. It was your dad. It was you. What was it? Where did it come from?
No, it was my decision. Just having talked with my agent, having talked with coaches and GMs and ownerships, and kind of going through the recruiting. I mean, it's not recruiting, but just through the draft process of talking to organizations and everything. I just, I was just worried about the Chargers organization at the time, and you know what. I felt it was the right decision, and I had a little pull. I kind of quietly tried to do it, just say, "Hey, please don't draft me. It could be our little secret." They didn't think it was, they didn't keep their secret part of it real well. And it wasn't my dad. My dad just tried to take some heat off.
All right, so you see, as he was getting through it, he said, "Hey, it was me. I had some leverage. I told them don't draft me. We'll keep it a secret. We don't got to tell anybody." They went on. They still drafted him. They didn't listen. But he was never going to play for the Chargers. He never played for the Chargers. And he took responsibility there. But at the time, his father was the outspoken one. His father was the one who was in front of everybody saying, "Hey, my son is not playing for them. It's just our decision." He wouldn't. The Chargers, everybody who's older knows something always happens, and the Chargers just don't get over the hump. That's just how they're always viewed. They've had a ton of great quarterbacks, a ton of great teams that just never got over the hump. And Archie Manning wasn't going to send his son to a team like that. So that's very important to the story. So we've seen this situation play out with, someone else that's highly regarded in the game. Archie Manning, he actually, blocked it. Him in combination with Eli. So that's important so you get the backstory. So what Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, said on that talk show is not unprecedented. Like it never happened. It happened. It happened before, and I don't see the issue with that happening again. But when it comes to power, people with power don't want to be told what to do, and that's kind of how I see it. So let's get on. Now, what they're trying to do is they're trying to spin the narrative that Shedeur Sanders had these terrible interviews, and that was the reason why he slipped in the draft. One thing that I like to do is I like to look at situations and determine if this is something that I can quantify, that I can grade. So if his interviews were that bad, will they show a reporter and a reporter watch the interview and a reporter determine if the interview was as bad as they say? They probably never will do that. They'll just say anonymously that the interview was bad, and they'll just run with that. And the funny thing is fans and people who dislike Shedeur, they just run with the story that they're being told with no questions. So you just see, if you look across anywhere on social media, you see everybody running with it. Oh man, those interviews were terrible. You're seeing NFL players saying, man, his interviews had to be terrible. You're hearing all these people say the interviews were terrible with no concrete evidence because they were never part of the interviews. You saw Brian Daboll, when questioned about it, say all of his meetings with quarterbacks were productive. Another thing that the Giants did, the Giants went and met with Shedeur again and had another workout with him very late, like the last weekend that they could before the draft. I believe it was on that Sunday, that was their last meeting that they actually did. Todd McShay reported, I believe it was 4 or 5 days prior, that Shedeur wouldn't be going to the Giants, he wouldn't be going to the Saints, and that Shedeur had these bad meetings. So right there, we already have a crack in the armor of the interviews were just so bad. If a person, so I used to do interviews, did a ton of interviews. I used to be a recruiter, high volume recruiter. If the interview was bad, there's no reason for us to have a follow-up interview. The interview was bad, you didn't get selected for the position, you go your way, I go my way. So if the interview was so bad with the Giants the first time, why did the Giants continue to meet with Shedeur? That's a crack. That's one of the reasons why I would say, okay, I can't just believe that the interviews were bad. Let's go to Todd McShay when he actually reported that. So I have Todd McShay. Let me find it here. We have it here.
More draft ammunition.
All right, so we have this here. So this was, I believe, a couple days before the draft. Or this is actually his Friday before the draft, where he was talking about his trades and stuff like that. He's going to say very clearly where he knows Shedeur is not going. So let's get that.
In the first 2 days of the draft, and Giants move into the spot and take Jackson Dart. Shedeur Sanders is not going to be a New York Giant. Shedeur Sanders is not going to.
You hear that? Shedeur Sanders is not going to be a New York Giant.
Be a New Orleans Saint.
Shedeur Sanders is not going to be a New Orleans Saint. This is prior to the draft, and this is before the Giants took that last meeting with Shedeur. He was already saying this, and he was putting it out there. So why would you be going on these extra visits with a person you know you have no interest in taking?
Okay, so let's just address that now. We said to you the week after the combine that I was surprised that other networks weren't reporting what the information that came to me so easily. Shedeur Sanders is a good young man. Shedeur Sanders has always been respectful and everything else. Some interviews didn't go well, including with the New York Giants, I'm told now. And I think what happened early in the process, there was a feeling that they could handpick. I don't think. Coach Prime came out and said it himself. I'm gonna handpick the places that my son can go.
So you see where the issue lies? So it seems like I was just putting it out there that, hey, that's what they took exception to. No, he's saying it right here. That's what they took exception to. They took exception to the fact that he came out and said that he was not going to allow his son to play for certain teams. And that's something that I'm going to keep saying, and I'm going to keep saying it because I want y'all to hear how many different people say this exact same thing. But then they want to say it's not because of Coach Prime. They want us to believe it's because he had poor interviews. Think about this. Shedeur Sanders had the custom cleats that were New York Giants colors for the bowl game that he warmed up in. Do you think that's the team that he wasn't going to give his all in an interview? He got custom cleats made. It was reported. Coach Prime said, we're praying for the Giants. And that's the team that he went, that's the interview that he went and blew up. That's the interview that he didn't take seriously. Do y'all believe this? Because I don't believe this. I don't believe that 1 second. If you're telling me that this, if I'm telling you this is where I want to go, my dad is saying this is where he wants me to go, I'm saying this is where I want to go through different ways. I'm saying this. I'm going to be the most prepared for that interview. That's not the interview I'm just going to fail at. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because the stories don't add up. And they are using something that's not quantifiable to say that's the reason why he fell, and I don't believe it. I'm not falling for the lies. Y'all don't fall for the lies either. That's Todd McShay. We went over the mess of when he was trying to say that Shedeur was not good in the interviews, but he was respectful and all this stuff. It was a word salad. It made no sense. He would never came out directly and said Shedeur blew those interviews. That is not what he said. He said that he wasn't. He said that he didn't care about how they viewed him. That's what he said. Not caring about how somebody views you as a player or even a person is totally different than you blew these interviews. You can't tell me that's the same thing. One of my best traits is I actually listen to people when they speak. And words have definitions to give you clarity on what they mean. And when people use certain words, they help you understand what a person is trying to say. That is not what he said. So we're going to knock that one down because that's not the reason why.
It's up to the writer, first of all, to.
Now, we had other people speak on Shedeur. We have players. We have Boomer Esiason. He's speaking on Shedeur. So let's listen. I got 2 clips from Boomer.
75% completion.
This is the first
percentage.
one.
Oh, he had a lot of touchdowns.
College football is completely different.
I know it is. I know, but I do think there's something about him that I think would excite a fan base and lend hope to a fan base that's been longing for another guy since Eli got old.
You know, he dominated at the HBCU that he played at, and I would say, yeah, he played much above average at Colorado.
He played great at Colorado.
But when I watch the games, there's a lot. He's standing back there for 5 or 6 seconds.
Understood. I know you got to get rid of the.
So I'm going to stop it right there. That's just a lie. Because if you notice, the media also reported on Shedeur Sanders having the slowest time to actually throw a pass, which was right under 3 seconds. And he's saying he's standing back for 5 to 6 seconds. If you watch Colorado, I think the offensive line was trying, but I don't think they were good as a unit. He faced so much pressure straight up the middle of the line, and he faced so much pressure from the tackles getting crumbled in. Remember, they actually changed the center route. The center that left, I believe he might have went to Virginia. I think his name was Cash Cleveland. He was a freshman that they actually put in at center. They also had their guard. They had their their right tackle. They pulled him in to guard, and they put in another tackle because they were trying to work through the fit of the offensive line. So that goes directly against what he's saying about this 5 to 6 seconds to throw the ball. What they're trying to do is they're trying to sell you on the narrative that he can't make decisions. He can't make reads. So now they will just start saying things that are not true. Get the tape. Find me how many times the last 2 years when he's playing in Colorado, he had 5 to 6 seconds to throw the ball. 5 to 6 seconds to throw the ball is a very long time. It's so long. This is what we're going to do. I got a clock. When I stop talking, I'm going to stop talking for 6 seconds, and y'all going to see how many times you've seen a quarterback drop back and had as much time. So we're going to do it right now. That was 6 seconds. How many times you seen a college quarterback had that much time to throw the ball and can't make a decision? See, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to spin it on he can't make a decision. But we're not falling for that. Let's get to his next clip. And this is going to be way more telling. We got Boomer again. You see that? They took him off. Let's let it play.
And they took him off because the owner said, take him off. I don't want that guy. Shedeur Sanders just torpedoed himself. His attitude off the field at the combine, his dad didn't help him either. You know, he was on podcast talking about, this is my son. If I can get him to where I want to get him to, I'm going to do that. But, you know, when
are y'all seeing this? Are y'all seeing this theme of the reasons why they're given? His attitude at the combine. So his attitude off the field. Shedeur Sanders never got in trouble off the field. Shedeur Sanders does not have a criminal record. Shedeur Sanders is not running from police because he was drunk at a bar. Shedeur Sanders does not have allegations against him. When they're saying this off the field stuff, this is something that's not quantifiable. Anytime a person wants to tell you that the reason why something happened and they give you something that's not quantifiable, you could just say, I ain't believing that. Because we know what's actually quantifiable and that's not. So he gave a bunch of reasons. Owners took him off the board. He's going to actually say 3 in this clip. Took him off the board because of how he was at the combine. How was he at the combine? He asked every question. He was there. Oh, he didn't throw at the combine. You wanted him to throw at the combine. That's actually going to backfire. The reason why he didn't throw at the combine, they asked him that question. He answered that question. What was his reasoning? I bet you Boomer doesn't know his reason. His reason was because he knew that he had the brightest light on him and he wanted to shine a light on his teammates that also didn't get invited to the combine. His brother wasn't invited to the combine. Will Howard wasn't invited to the combine. He did it for them. So you telling me this person that's not a good leader, supposedly has off the field stuff that y'all don't like, would take all the hits of y'all talking about him negatively so he can highlight his teammates who weren't invited? And that's the person you trying to tell me that y'all have an issue with how he does things? Come on, man. We're not hearing this. Let's let this clip finish up so y'all can hear the reasons.
When you listen to this kid talk right prior or at the combine about if you want a new culture in your locker room.
Hold on. I don't want to destroy everything he's saying. I want to let it play through, but he's saying way too much stuff. So if you notice, first he said at the combine. Now he's saying at or before the combine. Why is that important? Who's talking to him before the combine? That means they're just looking at his post-game coverage. They're looking at social media and they're trying to get it interpreted. They're trying to decide how they view him before they even met him. That's preconceived view of him before they met him, before they shook his hand, before they asked him a question. You're going to see that a lot of these decisions were made by teams and owners before they met Shedeur.
I'm the guy to do that. I can turn it around. I mean,
so you don't want your quarterback to be confident. If you draft him early in the draft, it's because your stuff needs to be turned around. If you are the Tennessee Titans, it needs a turnaround. They just got new coaching staff, GM, all new staff in there. That needs to be turned around. That's why they drafted Cam Ward. If you are the Cleveland Browns, who traded the number 2 pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars to number 5 to take Mason Graham and get more ammunition for next year's draft, what happens? They need to be turned around. I'm a Browns fan. The Browns need to turn it around. If you are the New York Giants, who haven't been good since Eli, you need to turn it around. Your culture needs to change. Brian Daboll's on the hot seat. The GM's on the hot seat. You have a problem with the most important position on the football field and that player saying, if you want to turn it around, pick me. How does that even make sense? You're going to bad teams. If you are the New Orleans Saints, You just turned it over again. Sean Payton gone. After Sean Payton, you promoted the special teams coach, the head coach. He's gone. Now you got another coach. New Orleans Saints not looking to turn things around? Not looking to change the culture? How are you not looking to change the culture when you keep turning over head coaches, GMs, different assistant coaches? You are looking to turn your stuff around, change your culture. That is somebody who is intimidated by a person's confidence in what they plan to accomplish. Let's keep going.
He's very high on himself. And I think he was very off-putting to many, many coaches and general managers in the league. And I'm telling you right now, and I know this after talking to 3 different personnel people in the NFL this weekend, they didn't even have him on their board. They took him off. And
y'all hear that? They took him off the board, no matter the pick. Appreciate you for sharing it live. No matter what pick he was picked, no matter what pick he was going to be, he could have been the last pick in the draft. 3 teams took him off their board. And the reasons he just gave, his dad said he wanted to try to control where he went. That's not Shedeur. Shedeur said he was going to change the culture. If you're a losing team, your culture needs to be changed anyway. He's off-putting how he carries himself. He don't have no off-the-field issues. He don't have teammates coming out complaining about him. And y'all want to sell me on the idea that these teams would take a player because they're trying to win. How are you telling me you're trying to win, even if you didn't have Shedeur as a number 1 quarterback, even if you had Shedeur as a number 2 quarterback, you completely take him off of your board with no off-the-field issues, and you telling me that that owner would take him if he was trying to win? Those 2 things don't match. One is not true. And the one that's not true is that they don't want to win all the time. That's a lie. They say that to the fans, so we don't feel bad. So we still are bought in for a whole season. Because there's no way you telling me a player with no off-the-field things, no off-the-field incidents, nothing coming out about him, that you take him completely off of your board. These decisions were predetermined. It was nothing Shedeur could do to get back on these teams' boards or stay on their boards. And that's the truth. That's what y'all got to realize. Don't let these people tell you that something he did in an interview was the reason why. And I'm not just going to say this and not show and prove why I'm telling you this. So there you go. Three teams had him off the board, right? Let's go here.
I can't tell you where he was in a pecking order, Rich.
Now, this is, I believe it's a beat writer for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Y'all know I watch everything on Chipmunk Mode. We're going to speed them up. Because now we're going to do some process of elimination, and we're going to show you how these teams are lying when they tell you they'll take a player if he can help them win. So let's go.
But I will tell you, despite what all the national people thought, they did not intend to draft him. If he was there on the 6th round, and maybe, but the people that had him going to the Steelers and had him going at 21, that just wasn't going to happen. No quarterback was going at 21. That includes Jackson Dart, who they did have a 1st-round grade on. But I don't think he factored in, and you could see how many times they passed on him. If they were going to take him, they would have tried to take him in the 4th round. But it wasn't high on their list.
Well, I mean, they had 3 shots to draft him, and the 2nd-round pick, they essentially drafted DK Metcalf and paid him like a superstar wide receiver that they hope he will continue to be in Pittsburgh. But why was Shedeur not even a first 5-round consideration, do you think, if he was available? He wasn't available by the time that they had Y.A. Black out there to select in the 5th round. He was gone by then. But what's your reporting on why the Steelers didn't have Shedeur as high as everybody thought?
Well, Rich, I can't tell you specifically why, but I could just tell you there were other quarterbacks that they were more interested in the middle to late rounds. As I said, they liked Jackson Dart, but when he went, now if he was there in the 3rd round, which I didn't expect, I don't think they did either because they had a 1st-round grade on him. But they had other quarterbacks in the middle of the round that they thought that they might be interested in. But the quarterback was not going to be a priority. And I believe we talked about this last time. They are all in 2026 on moving up and trying to get what they believe to be their next franchise quarterback, or certainly their starter for a number of years. And so I think their plan all along has been geared that way. And I can't speak. I know, obviously, the Steelers thought, he had a nice skill set and everything. But I just don't. I never got the impression that he was high on their list to draft, Rich.
So
at any point.
At any point in the draft, you're saying that Shedeur Sanders was not going to be a Steeler, best to your knowledge.
Best to my knowledge, that is correct.
So
y'all hear that? Hey, I did my best to let that whole thing play out just so y'all can hear it. So best of his knowledge, at any point, the Steelers were not going to take Shedeur. To the best of his knowledge, at no point, at no pick, were the Steelers going to take Shedeur. That's 4 teams. That's 4 teams we got. We up to 4 teams who Shedeur was off their board at no point. So you're telling me the top 2 rated quarterback from this draft class wasn't on your board if he was your last pick in the draft? And y'all want me to believe that these teams will draft a player if he can help them get better? Who's in Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback room right now? Mason Rudolph. I think they got Skylar Thompson. I think that's his name. He was the backup in Miami. So they got 2 backups. They're hanging on for a thread, hoping that Aaron Rodgers come. And you telling me that if Shedeur was in the 7th round, y'all want to take a flyer on him? And y'all want me to believe that these teams actually are trying to win? They're trying to get better? If you'll notice, the media has 2 lies that they always tell you. They always tell you an owner will take a player regardless if he can help them win. That's a lie. We proved that's a lie. The other one is they actually know what they're doing when it comes to evaluating talent. They have no idea. Every single draft, there are players who slip by teams who actually need that specific position and they get by them. If they knew what they were doing, how would that happen every year? It happens every single year. Excuse me. If they knew what they were doing, why would every year there be teams that need quarterbacks? If they knew what they were doing, why would, in my eyes, the Saints not be in a better position at quarterback? Why would it's unknown if the Giants are in a better position at quarterback? The Jets, I like Justin Fields. Hopefully they don't turn him into a running back and let him be an actual quarterback, which he is, because I believe he has some talent and he could show and prove with that receiving core they had there. But you look at some of these teams, you can't tell me that they know it and they see it. You can't tell me that. But this is already, we up to 4 teams had him off the board. And these, to me, it seems like these are 4 teams that need quarterbacks. And y'all want me to believe that they would have took him if they thought he could do better. Come on, man. I ain't falling for that. I'm not falling for it.
Daniel, since this may be.
Let's see. This is 3 months ago. So this is 3 months ago. So this is before the draft. Now I'm going to take you before the draft. So we already proved that owners won't take a player if he can help them, even with no off the field drama. We proved that already. We already proved that all these teams took him off the board. And a lot of the reasons why they took him off the board, actually, we're not going to go to Daniel Jeremiah yet. We're going to go somewhere else. A lot of these owners took him off the board before they even talked to him. How do we know that? So we got something else. The beauty of doing my shows on Saturday, I could dig through so much information. So let's go here. Not here, is it here? Which one is it?
It looks stupid ultimately for drafting both of them, but if it doesn't work out with Shedeur, okay, he alone was a 5th round pick, so it's not a big deal.
If it's a disaster, if it's a surf.
Fair use for all the videos I'm using. I got 2 clips from Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. But one is going to give us a timeline. And the timeline is very important, so I got to find out which clip it is.
If it doesn't meet his responsibilities, They could just cut him and walk away.
I will say, I think the storylines about the drama surrounding him got way overblown. Like that was not being talked about that much before the draft. And then all of a sudden, when he had his drop, all these things get brought up. I had never heard he was a bad leader or his teammates didn't like him. I don't know. Where did
Well, pre-draft there was the unnamed executive.
There was a lot. I came back from the owners' meetings and I sat here and told you guys there's a lot of crap out there on Shedeur, but I'm not going to tell you what I know.
Yeah, you said you didn't want to repeat it.
I'm not going to crap on this kid before he.
And that was responsible.
All right. So, the owners' meeting. When is the owners' meeting? Is the owners' meeting before the NFL draft? Is the owners' meeting before teams start to meet with potential draft picks? Because they don't meet with draft picks until after the combine. They meet them at the combine and after the combine. Let's look at this. So, I wish I would have did this on the screen, but as I was doing my research for the week, I went in and I was like, let's see which order that these things happened in, because the order is very important, because the order helps us determine if we've been lied to. So, the NFL Draft Combine, April 24th to April 26th. That's when the Draft Combine was. That was the Draft Combine. I'm sorry. That was the NFL Draft. My bad. That was the NFL Draft. I was telling you about the owners' meeting. The owners' meeting are March 30th to April 2nd. March 30th to April 2nd. Shedeur Sanders had bad stories going around about him. Let me look up something real quick. I took the wrong screenshot. I think they give me the wrong. They give me the NBA. I don't want the NBA. I want the NFL. Let's see. Got to go all the way to the NFL's website for this. Where is the dates? The dates. All right, we showing all these other things that we don't need to see. We just need the date. There we go. This is coming up backwards. It's saying there's no way that it went in reverse order, that it went the March 2nd. Okay. Takes place. Okay, the 27th to March 2nd. 27th to March 2nd. The owners' meeting was a week after. But the owners, I don't think owners were actually meeting with players at the draft combine. And it was already, he had a bad name. They didn't take any team visits yet. They weren't meeting with them personally except for the 15-minute in-person interviews. And I'm supposed to believe that he torpedoed all these situations at that point. That don't even make sense. How many owners were sitting right there versus it being staff meeting with him? So how did he torpedo it that soon? We know that they didn't give him a chance to torpedo it. We know that they already decided that based on what Coach Prime said, they were mad about that. And it comes out when everybody's talking about it. But now that we got that out the way, let's go to another one. No, we're not going to look at that one. We're going to skip it. We're going to look at how they view Shedeur prior to the draft. Because what happens is they just kind of throw all this information at you, and then you're looking like, dang, how do we get from here to here? How do we get to this? And basically, you're starting to see that they viewed him totally differently.
Be the conversation tomorrow morning, and if
We're
it's
gonna
not,
speed
we'll
this
have
up.
it at some point in time. in regards to what the Vikings should do with J.J. McCarthy, and I'm going to term it this way by asking you, if J.J. McCarthy was available in this year's draft, would he be, he's rep one? Yeah, that's what you're saying?
Yeah, he'd have been the first pick in this draft, yeah. As the quarterback, I mean, if you don't, if you.
There's no way J.J. McCarthy would have been the first pick in this draft. If you look at J.J. McCarthy, they barely let him throw the ball when he was at Michigan. When it came down to important situations, he was not throwing the ball that much. There's no way J.J. McCarthy, we're not going to let them just rewrite this stuff. And J.J. McCarthy was not going to be picked before Cam Ward. Come on, man. Because the whole knock on Shedeur that they claim is a knock is arm talent, and they say, oh, arm talent is the thing that makes Cam Ward ahead of J.J. McCarthy. You never hear, the whole time they've talked about J.J. McCarthy, you never heard out of this world arm talent. You never heard his arm talent compared to Patrick Mahomes. None of this stuff. They started this narrative that these quarterbacks weren't good. They started this narrative way before. Oh man, they wouldn't be good. They wouldn't be as good as the previous draft class. Oh, they would have been the 7th or 8th quarterback selected. But then the same attributes that they're getting all this praise for, you're saying that they would have fell behind guys who didn't have these attributes? This don't even make sense. And they talk about Shedeur, how many times he threw the ball at or around the line of scrimmage. J.J. McCarthy, they were a run-dominant team. Did y'all even watch Michigan?
If you want to take the best player, to me, it's Abdul Carter.
He's unbelievable. Holy cow, does he jump off the screen? Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't think they give you that number at that school unless you're just an absolute freak show.
So you see how they were saying Abdul Carter is the number one? Don't you know how he got later? Shout out to Travis. I like how they eventually started to notice him and actually realize his talent, but they weren't even saying Travis at this time. So how are we going to believe these people when 3 months go by and they're speaking a totally different tone?
Right. It's what is that? That's 44 in Syracuse, 55 in USC.
Let's skip this
number
ahead.
1 for wide receivers in Michigan. Blah blah blah. Yada yada yada. He's
Why? Because
this is when he's going to talk about Shedeur. So watch how he talks about Shedeur prior to the draft.
He doesn't have the exceptional size. He doesn't have an exceptional arm. He's not an exceptional athlete. He's really, really solid. His superpower is, obviously important. Accuracy, touch, anticipation, like the throwing stuff is great. Somebody brought up a great thought on him the other day when I was talking to him around the league. He said, it sounds weird to say it because of his dad, but he said, Shedeur is an overachiever. Like he the sum is greater than the individual parts. If you just break.
Yeah, overachiever, the accuracy, the anticipation, all these things. When we got close to the draft, did you hear anybody say he was an overachiever? Did you hear anybody talk about his accuracy? Did you hear anybody talk about these things? No, you heard them say that he didn't have his arm was weak. That's what you heard them say. You heard them tear him down. When have you heard somebody call him an overachiever? Why did it change so fast? Why did it change?
Him down with all those, the traits, the size, the arm strength, the explosive athleticism, the twitch, all that stuff. You might not be enamored, but he knows how to play the position. And so I go back to, going back to Adam Peters, we were talking about earlier when I was saying, did you learn a lesson when you were in San Francisco with Brock Purdy in the scouting process? And he said, yeah, he was the best at quarterbacking. So like that's kind of a funny way to phrase it, but I was like, okay.
I know y'all just heard that, right? Did he just say Shedeur was the best at quarterbacking? Now, mind you, this is 3 months ago. This is from, 3 months ago. So you see how can I believe these people? How can I take what they say serious? Overachiever. He talked about his arm, how accurate he was. He never said he had a weak arm. He talks about how he's the best at quarterbacking, puts him in the same breath as Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is important because people forget what the 49ers did to get Trey Lance. But we're going to go back through it.
Drop back, see, sort, and deliver the ball where it needs to go accurately. That's what Shedeur does really well. It's just, I think.
See, sort, deliver the ball accurately. But then as it got closer to the draft, remember Boomer Esiason said, he had 5 to 6 seconds back there. He wasn't decisive. Everybody said, he took so many sacks because he has bad decision making. All you got to do is take what they said. We don't even have to go to what somebody else said. If you just look at how these people spoke about him 3 months ago and how they spoke about him leading into the draft, you would think they were talking about 2 totally different quarterbacks. How is this the same person that everybody was ripping to shreds before the draft? How is this the same person? See, I know it's the same person. The difference is, I know they was just flat out lying. I don't have to be the person that sits in a room to say that this is a lie. Every person was describing him the exact same way 3 months ago. And then they want to start blaming it on agents. Oh, well, if he would have had an agent. I even saw Adam Schefter say Shedeur number wouldn't have got leaked if he had an agent. Agents would have covered that. He wouldn't have got prank called. So you blaming the person who was the victim of something? Somebody trying to ruin his moment that he worked his whole life for? You gonna blame the victim? What are we doing? What are we doing? These are instances where they tell you what their issue is. The NFL is about power. They want you to use an agent. They want to lie to your face and tell the agent the truth. They don't want you to know exactly how they feel. They want to go and tear down draft picks every single year, year after year, so they can throw teams off the center what they really want to do. You look at the first 5 picks in the draft. How did so many people get the order down? They got the order down. The Browns and the Jaguars traded. They still got the order right. How did they get the order right? Because they are doing all these unnecessary things and they're blaming it on, we don't want teams to know what we're doing. People know what you're doing. People know what your weaknesses are. People know what you need to do as a team. People know what you need to upgrade. They know how you need to get better. People know these things. I saw one mock drafter or one guy who does mock drafts. Every player on his top 100 was drafted. Every player. How did he get that right? All this stuff that they're doing is outdated. And they need to come into the new world. Sports media, especially in the NFL, is moving so slow with how they cover the game, is moving so slow with how they do things. They still let people hide behind the guise of being anonymous sources. Let's put this thing through a test. Would you make any other decision on how you view something based on an anonymous quote? Would you buy something from Target, Walmart based on an anonymous quote? Would you buy something on Amazon based on an anonymous quote? Would you make any car buying decisions on anonymous quotes? Would you buy a home based on an anonymous quote? In every industry, people fight for transparency so they can make the best decision. The NFL still hides behind a cloud of anonymity. It's insane. It has to change. And people will get rolled on if they don't move with the times. Look at the game of football. The game of football that they played in 1980 is not the game that they play today. And they are constantly evolving with how defensive coverages work, what they're doing, how they're using running backs, tight ends differently, how they're using receiver, motion. All these things are changing. And the only thing that's not changing, they're trying to hold on to, is how the game is talked about. You can't have all these things change in the game and then you talk about the game the same way. Now, next year, everybody's talking about Arch Manning. They already have him as the overall favorite to win the Heisman. I hope he has a great season. But we have not seen enough to say he should be in potential running for the Heisman. Next year, if the wrong team has the number 1 pick and they are going to take Arch Manning, we are going to see the hypocrisy and the answers to the test. Because then we'll see if they don't do the same thing and talk about how owners were so mad at how Coach Prime said he wanted to steer where his son went. We're going to know the issue was Coach Prime and what he said, and the owners trying to maintain power if they allow Arch Manning, when he comes out, to just get moved based on what his family believes would be the best for him. See, some of these things, you have to have a longer memory. You have to be able to look back and go back into your catalog of things that happened previously to determine what happened. And this is the NFL media is one of those situations. You got to be able to look back, because they'll sell you some dreams and they'll act like what they're telling you is so true. It's also funny that they've already started to spin the narrative on, man, the draft is kind of a crapshoot. You know, you evaluating these guys is so subjective. You don't really know how they're going to turn out. Why do you think they're starting to say that? The dust settled. They're not as excited about how the draft went. They know that a lot of these guys use Shedeur's name, Coach Prime's name for clickbait to run all these videos and to get people to watch them. When the dust settles, if they believe what they said Shedeur was 3 months ago, they know they already made a mistake. And they're going to blame it. They're going to blame it on, man, the draft is subjective. You don't really know. But why did they get so mad at Mel Kiper when Mel Kiper was going off saying that these guys don't have a pure system? They don't know how to select quarterbacks. Why would they get mad at that? And then why are they trying to spin the narrative now? Let's get this thing moving forward. That was just me going off on a little tyrant there, because I know that what they'll do is they will throw rocks while living in the glass house. And they will try to, you know, steer you in one direction. And then when it comes out, you know, oh man, these guys actually turned out to be good and they all took them off their board. Then they got to have a reason why. And the reason why is going to be, man, you know, the draft is kind of subjective and how you make decisions. And nope, we're not going to let you forget it. We're going to make sure we remind you of how you tried to sell us these lies. We're not going to let you live it down. We're not going to do it. Because y'all tear people down. This supposed power move, or I'm not supposed, this power move that the NFL tried to play, they tried to cost Shedeur $20 million. So this is what we're going to do. Even if Shedeur was going to be a second round pick, which I don't think anybody will argue that he was at least going to be a second round pick. Him going in the 5th round, going down, and he's probably going to make about 4.6, maybe 4.6 in his first 4-year contract versus around the 20 he could have made, or 20 plus he could have made being an early second round pick. That was the power play. But, you know, I think we almost got to call Shedeur the people's champ, because what they didn't realize was they didn't realize that he had people that's been riding for him. And these people are buying up his jerseys like crazy. And I don't know if y'all know how this split works, but an NFL player gets 2/3 of the revenue from their jersey sales. Shedeur already being in the top 5 of all NFL jersey sales and being number 1 rookie selling jersey. I went back and I looked over a couple years, and the lowest amount that every player will get is like $32,000 while they're active in the NFL playing. But it's been years where Patrick Mahomes got about $6 million. Tom Brady made about $9 million just based on jersey sales. So if Shedeur works his way up, he can make that back in jersey sales in his first 2 years. So what they thought they were doing to him, he had the people on his side, and the people are backing him, and the people are supporting him. And that's one thing they didn't account for. They didn't account for people backing him, because they wanted to show we got the power, we run this, we control it. But it's always a variable that you don't see coming. You know, everybody got a weak spot. You know, like me, I'm from Cleveland. Cleveland sports is my weak spot. So if you ask me, you know, the Cavs versus Boston, Eastern Conference Finals, I'm taking the Cavs. That's what it is. But I understand my weak spot. I'm willing to tell you what my weak spot is. So you'll see the bias in me. I'll tell you the bias. You see the Cleveland stuff in the back. I just tell you the bias. One thing that people do is when they think that they got the control and the power, they always leave a weak spot, because they thought the humiliation of him going late in the draft was just going to crush his spirit. And it didn't. And they're already trying to change the narrative to swing the tune to, man, you know, this is subjective. It's subjective. So let's get to it. Let's keep this thing moving along. That was my TED Talk on what the NFL media needs to update and how this was a power play that they were trying to do. But little did they know Shedeur is the people's champ and he had the people backing him. And that's one thing they couldn't account for. So let's get to it. So like I told you, I did a ton of research for this subject. And this is Speak. And this is Paul Pierce, Joy Taylor, Keyshawn Johnson. We're going to skip to specifically the part where Joy Taylor is speaking. Let's get to it.
Right now, because I'm trying to contextualize how I feel. I'm not a big conspiracy theorist. I agree with you. I don't think it's possible to get 32 teams and 32 owners who would like to win to be a part of a conspiracy to make sure that he falls in the draft. What I do think, though, is this. With all due respect, I don't care about quarterback evaluators. You don't know what you're talking about.
They literally don't know.
You have no idea what you're talking about.
They literally do not know.
You're guessing, and sometimes you're right, and most of the time you're super wrong.
Super wrong.
They do not know how to evaluate the quarterback position. I say that with an immense amount of respect.
But you're not wrong.
But you don't know what you're talking about. There is an insurmountable amount of evidence that you are completely clueless when it comes to evaluating quarterbacks. There are so many factors that go into whether a quarterback is successful or not. And talent is really the last thing, because they're all somewhat talented. It's what organization you go to. It's the coaching. It's the development coaching that you have. It's health. It's the offensive line. It's the offensive line coach. It's the offensive coordinator. It's the defensive coordinator. It's whether you've played in that weather before. It's who your veterans are. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. It's the system that you're in. It's the skill positions that you have. It's if you have a running game. It's if the defense can stop the run so that you're not on the field all the time. The list goes on and on. So with all due respect, no one on this planet knows how to evaluate quarterbacks. Where's my camera? No one. You're all full of it. Please give me this job, because it literally is just a guess. So this whole idea that everyone's like, wow, he was going to be overdrafted. Was Brock Purdy overdrafted? Was he underdrafted? He was the last pick in the NFL draft. He was Mr. Irrelevant. He's played in an NFC Championship game in the Super Bowl. I don't care what any of you have to say about quarterbacks.
Twice NFC
You don't know
Championship.
anything about evaluating quarterbacks. This whole thing is nonsense. Let's just look at the quarterbacks that have played, right? #1 overall picks that have played in the Super Bowl in the last 10 years. Twice in the last 10 years, there's been #1 overall picks who've played against each other. Matthew Stafford and Joe Burrow, and Peyton Manning and Cam Newton. That's 2015. Peyton Manning. Peyton, who's been doing television and producing movies for how many years now? Stop talking to me about these high picks and what you know about it. You don't know anything. It's all a complete crapshoot. So I don't think it's a conspiracy. I can't get that far. But please, oh, he didn't interview well. He's not humble. I have got some news for you guys, and this is going to sound dramatic, but these kids don't care about what you're talking about anymore. They're NIL. They're coming into these leagues with millions of dollars, with sponsorship, with followings, with shows, with podcasts. Maybe, just maybe, these young people want to feel like they're going somewhere where their future is in the hands of someone competent. God forbid there be some accountability with these organizations. What are we talking about? Yeah. He was projected to go anywhere from 2 to 21, and he fell to the 5th round. Listen, God, best of luck to everyone. That's all I'm saying. Because if this goes sideways and he actually ends up being good, y'all going to have some real explaining to do. But I don't know. And guess what? You don't know either. Because if I go down this list and I look at the guys who've been drafted #1 overall, where's my list? Hold on. Let's just look at the quarterbacks that have been drafted #1 over the past 10 years. Cam Ward, obviously, we have no idea what he's going to be. Caleb Williams, we don't know what Caleb's going to do. Bryce Young. Bryce Young, do we know what Bryce? Trevor Lawrence, has he won a playoff game yet? No. Okay. Joe Burrow, success story. Kyler Murray. Okay. Baker Mayfield, won some playoff games. Not playing for his original team. He's on his 4th team now, by the way. And Jared Goff. Let's consider that a success story as well. You don't know what you're talking about. They don't know what they're talking about.
They make mistakes on the quarterback position all the time.
All the time. Okay. Baker Mayfield, won some playoff games. Not playing for his original team. He's on his 4th team now, by the way. And Jared Goff. Let's consider.
All right, so I just wanted to rewind that back so everybody can hear her also reminding you about Baker Mayfield. But so what I did was I said, okay, they're going to spin the narrative, and they're going to want us to believe that they want us to believe now that they're better at evaluating quarterbacks than they really are. And then later they're going to say it's subjective and, it's hit or miss. And this is the reason why I say, you got to pick your side. Either you know what you're doing or you don't. So either I can take what you say as valid or I can't. But when you are wrong more times than you're right, I just have to say, based on the numbers, that you don't know what you're doing, or at least you don't have a proven way for you to do it successfully. Would y'all agree to that? That's not crazy, right? So let's go back. I went back to 2010, and I'm just going to go over let's do the first 3 quarterbacks selected in the draft. since 2010. So 2010, you got Sam Bradford, Tim Tebow, Jimmy Clausen. Tim Tebow was overdrafted. Colt McCoy probably had the best career out of those between Sam Bradford. All right, 2011. Cam Newton, Jake Locker, Blaine Gabbert. But who was selected after him? Which this is where the problem lies. Cam Newton, easy. He was locked for number 1, right? But Andy Dalton went in the second round. Colin Kaepernick went in the second round. Andy Dalton took his team to the playoffs a bunch. Colin Kaepernick took his team to the Super Bowl. Tyrod Taylor from the 2011 draft was in the 6th round to the Ravens. He's still playing. He's the Jets' current backup to Justin Fields. 2012, Andrew Luck, Robert Griffin, Ryan Tannehill. But who went after that? Russell Wilson in the 3rd round. He went to 2 Super Bowls. Nick Foles won a Super Bowl. Kirk Cousins still in the league. Put up great numbers. Great numbers. So you're starting to see a trend here that even the 1st, 2nd, and sometimes the 3rd quarterback aren't the most successful from that draft class. 2013. E.J. Manuel, Geno Smith, Mike Glennon, Matt Barkley. Most successful was the 2nd one in Geno Smith. He went in the 2nd round. One thing I heard this week was, E.J. Manuel, he had great interviews. Everybody fell in love with him in the interview. He went in the 1st round to the Bills, and he did not make it long. 2014. Blake Bortles, he took the Jaguars to the playoffs. But after him, Johnny Manziel, we know what happened to Johnny. We Browns fans. Who came after that? Teddy Bridgewater was looking really good till he had those injuries early. But then we got to go. After that, Derek Carr, been to the playoffs a couple times. He was a 2nd round pick. Jimmy Garoppolo, 2nd round pick to the Patriots. He went to the Super Bowl. 2015. Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota, Garrett Grayson. This was a light quarterback class. Trevor Siemian, 7th. Yeah, you really only got to look at 2 from there. 2016. Jared Goff, Carson Wentz, Paxton Lynch. Who went later than that? Jacoby Brissett in the 3rd round. Dak Prescott in the 4th round. So you see how many times that it's usually the 1st quarterback or 2nd quarterback. Somebody was a guy early. A lot of times it's a guy later who end up having the best career. I would say out of 2016 is definitely Jared Goff because he's been to the Super Bowl a couple times and he's also been to the playoffs a couple times. Hasn't been able to get it done, but he's been there. Jacoby Brissett, still in the league. He's been there for a long time. And then, of course, Dak Prescott, highest paid QB, I believe, right now. But now, this is where it gets real. The 1st pick, or the 1st quarterback selected in 2017, Mitchell Trubisky. Mitchell Trubisky was drafted ahead of Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. Mitchell Trubisky did not play a lot of games in college. Mitchell Trubisky was close to the Mannings. I remember he went to their camp, shot up the board. Do these guys know what they're doing? Mitchell Trubisky over Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson? And I know we only look at Deshaun Watson, who he is now, but Deshaun Watson early, it was like 1A and 1B when it came to Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. All right, 2018, Baker. I'll call Baker a success. 2 of the 4 teams he played off, he played on. He went to the playoffs. Sam Darnold, his 4th team, he kind of took off with Minnesota. Now he's on Seattle. Josh Allen was the 3rd quarterback selected. Josh Rosen and then Lamar Jackson So we can easily say in 2018, the third and fifth quarterback were the best out of that draft. And remember, I'm never going to let people forget this when they talk about Lamar, because now they want to give Lamar his accolades. But what's his name? Bill Polian, who used to run the Colts, he said Lamar should be a receiver. How wrong could he have been? And these are the people we're supposed to listen to. 2019. Kyler Murray went 1. Daniel Jones went 2. Dwayne Haskins went 3. Gardner Minshew went the 6th round. Probably the best career. Kyler Murray's been hit or miss, but number 1 overall pick. You shouldn't even be in the same breath as the 6th quarterback drafted in the 6th round that year. 2020, Joe Burrow, Tua, Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts. Now this is a solid class right here. Joe Burrow, we know what he is. He took them to the Super Bowl. Justin Herbert, a lot of people view him really highly. To me, the jury is out on Justin Herbert because he really melted down in the playoffs when they went against Jacksonville. So I'm kind of, I don't know about him. Jalen Hurts been to 2 Super Bowls, Super Bowl MVP. He was drafted in the 2nd round, and he was the 5th quarterback selected. 2021. Trevor Lawrence went number 1 overall. Zach Wilson went in the 1st round. Trey Lance went in the 1st. Justin Fields went in the 1st. Mac Jones went in the 1st. I would say by default, Trevor Lawrence. But Justin Fields got a chance. I think he has a chance to surpass Trevor Lawrence this year if he plays well for the Jets. 2022. Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder, Malik Willis. Those are the top 3. Bailey Zappi was in there. Sam Howell. I don't think this is right. We are missing Brock Purdy. Let's see. What year was Brock Purdy drafted? Yeah, we're missing Brock Purdy. 2022. Really? Okay. 2022. He's clearly the best one out that draft, and he was the last one taken. He's the last one. Do they really know what they're doing? So when they telling us to believe them, I don't know if they know what they're doing. All right. 2023, this is as far as I'm going to go because 2024 is too soon. But 2023, it's looking like the Panthers took Bryce Young number 1 overall. It's looking like CJ Stroud has been the better so far. Anthony Richardson went number 3 in the 1st round. Will Levis went in the 2nd round. Hendon Hooker, I remember him at Tennessee. He had some messed up injuries that kind of derailed him. But it's not the first pick. It's not the first pick that usually just turns out to just be so good. So I don't know if we really should just be blindly believing these teams when they want us to believe that they actually know what they're doing, because they have a history of not drafting the best quarterback first, not drafting the first best quarterback second. So the reason why I'm telling y'all, and the reason why we just went through that whole list, was to show that what Joy's saying was true. They don't have an exact science on how to do this well. But around draft time, they want us to believe that they have the exact science on how to do it well. But they gave us evidence this year. 4 teams gave us evidence that regardless of the pick, they weren't taking Shedeur. What part of the evaluation process do you take a player in the most important position, even if you say he was a second-rated quarterback in this draft, do you fully take him off your board without any off-the-field issues? They don't know what they're doing. Let's keep this thing moving forward.
Well, let me try to.
So if y'all know, it's been a lot of talk, a lot of, what's his name? Mike Florio and Sims. They've been talking a lot of stuff about the quarterbacks, but they're going to kind of change their tune a little bit here. So let me find the right point where they're going to start talking about them.
Articulate this because you're speaking to one of the things that is very tiring about the whole pre-draft industrial complex.
It is, yes.
There's this effort to turn it all into a mathematical equation, and there's an obsession over value. And, oh, no, you can't take this guy here. That's a reach. Oh, if you get this guy here, that's a great value pick. Nobody knows what any of these guys are going to become at the NFL level. And when the grades come out, and I don't know if you did draft grades, and I apologize in advance if I'm going to paint with too broad a brush.
No.
Draft grades are asinine.
Right.
Nobody knows what any of these guys are going to do. That is the one big factor that always gets overlooked in the Mel Kiper obsession with, oh, did you get enough value? Oh, did you reach? Oh, that's the best player available. You should take him because I say he's the best player available. We don't know what any one of these players is going to do until they play. And what happens is, and this is what is so insane about it, by the time we know, there's never a checklist or a report card. And people say, well, why don't you do draft grades 3 years after the fact? Because nobody cares by then. We're on to the next draft. It's the damnedest thing. It's like this big.
So y'all just get to say all this stuff pre-draft. The draft happens. Y'all get to be wrong by a lot. And then nobody gets to question you. This is where earlier when I went off on that tangent, old media doesn't realize how like YouTube works. A lot of YouTube is about receipts. A lot of YouTube is about not forgetting what these people tell us. A lot of YouTube is about remembering that Colin Cowherd said that the Pittsburgh Steelers should trade TJ Watt, Pickens to move up to number 3 to draft Shedeur. And then kill Shedeur and say he bombed all these interviews. YouTube lets us keep receipts and lets us remember what y'all are saying. Y'all think that it just goes away. Why do you think I still remember all those teams passed up on Lamar Jackson and Polian from the Colts said he should be a wide receiver? Y'all don't understand the storm that's coming. As these college kids get more popular, more famous, their fans, their supporters are not going to let y'all forget how y'all crapped on them pre-draft and then just move on to the next draft. We're not letting y'all do that. Y'all used to get away with that. Y'all have to update how you report these things. You have to. If I say something wrong, or if I pick a team and that team doesn't win a series, that team doesn't win a game, people come and they can call me out about it. I'm okay with it because I expect it. Old media, they don't realize that's coming. They don't realize it's a lot of bots online, but it's a lot of real people online who are watching y'all and who are paying attention with how you view situations, and they are going to bring it back up next year. All the people who tried to say because CJ Stroud didn't do well on some new standardized test that they try to run to determine if a guy's going to be good in the NFL, which doesn't have anything, from what I'm hearing, doesn't have anything to do with football, and say that's the reason why he shouldn't be the number 1 overall pick. Look at how all those people were wrong. They shouldn't be as cocky as they are if they know that it's not an exact science. If they know it's a likelihood that they can be wrong. They still don't realize people keep receipts. That's part of the YouTube game. Before the Super Bowl, I put up on X what I thought would happen in the Super Bowl. I thought Patrick Mahomes would be the MVP. I thought it would be a very close competitive game. And I thought that the Chiefs would pull it out in the end. That's what I thought. I was 100% wrong. If I was doing things based on how they do things, I would take that down because I wasn't right. I left it up because I'm willing to put how I feel about a situation out there, knowing that I have the potential to be wrong and knowing that I have the potential to be criticized for being wrong. They don't realize that they could be criticized for being wrong. They just think you move on to the next cycle. Shedeur Sanders having the #1 rookie jersey sales already, and they ain't even went to rookie minicamp yet, tells you he has a following, tells you he has support. He goes out and at some point he gets to play this year and he balls out. We're not letting y'all live down the fact that y'all crushed him and y'all use anonymous sources and y'all use information that wasn't quantifiable and it had nothing to do with football. We're not letting y'all forget that. We are going to remind you when next year's draft gets here. And then y'all try to say, oh man, all these teams, they trying to stockpile and get picks and all this stuff for next year's draft for a quarterback. What happens? We just went the last 15 years. How many times do we see 5, 6 quarterbacks that actually do well in the last 15 years? Maybe one time where it was about 4 quarterbacks that did well. All these teams that punted on this year, hoping next year will be better, what they got to remember is, or not remember, what they need to know is hope is not a strategy. Shout out to CGA for that. Hope is not a strategy. Shout out to CGA. Hoping for next year does not help you this year. Hoping for next year on things you can't control. You can't control the draft order unless you're just going to tank. You can't control who's coming out next year. They haven't equated for guys going back instead of coming out when they're a junior, playing that 4th year because of how much they can make. What you going to do if you saw Quinn Ewers come out this year? He could have got about $4 million in the range of what Carson Beck got to come back. And now he's going to make $800,000 because he went in the 7th round. That next quarterback who could come out and is kind of iffy about where he's going to go. You think he's not going back to college for that $3 to $4 million as a senior? Supposedly y'all like quarterbacks that have a lot of experience in college. Tyler Shuck played in college 7 years. Dylan Gabriel played in college 6 years. So quarterbacks staying longer, that shouldn't be a problem, right? Y'all got to get with the times. We're not letting y'all brush it under the rug. Y'all think y'all can brush it under the rug. We're not letting y'all brush it under the rug. We're going to remember we're taking receipts and we're going to play these receipts and we're going to post it in your comments and we're going to tell you about things that you are right and things that you are wrong. And the difference is we already know to expect this. Y'all don't even know what's coming. I just wanted to play that for y'all. I wanted y'all to see that they're trying to already turn the page and change the narrative about things that they already believe is wrong. And what I believe happened is I believe these guys went to sleep, slept a couple days, got all the hype that they got from Shedeur, let all the stench of what they heard and, pre-draft and all this stuff, they let all that stench wear off. And then they actually thought about it. They said, wait, you know what? Is Shedeur not good? Nah, we saw him. We saw him deliver. We saw him on time. We saw him stand in the pocket. We saw him extend plays and keep his eyes downfield. We saw things where he could actually win as a quarterback. And then they're like, oh, man. We just killed him for views for 5 days. It don't matter. It don't matter. It's not exact science. Sometimes you get it wrong. That's what they wanted us to believe. We're not letting that happen. So if you follow me on TikTok, I put up a lot of clips about how things were going with the Cleveland Browns draft and the reactions to, drafting players. It was a very big story. I had one side of the view of when Shedeur got the call. Now I'm going to play the other side of the view of when Shedeur got the call, which this is going to show. It's kind of synced up where it's going to show both sides of the call, where you see the Browns, and you also will see Shedeur receiving the call. I did have somebody request this, but this was something I wanted to play since I was out. So we're going to get to it. Let's see. All right, so we got it here. And also, fair use for all the videos I played. I know I played a bunch of videos. Really want to drive home this point of, everything I want to show. So I wanted to use their words to show you, what my point was. But let's go.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hey. I know it's been a long weekend. We're going to take you off the board here, all right, brother?
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
Hey, listen, you got to come in, you got to work hard, you got to earn your job, earn your keep. And it doesn't matter where you're taking, it matters what you do from this point forward, all right? Talented, I spent a lot of time with you, you're a good kid. Let's get ready to go to work and improve all the past what we want. All right?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, I got a coach here right now.
Yo. What's up, coach?
Good to see you, man.
Yes, sir. I'm excited to see you.
Remember I told you the Lord works in mysterious ways, right?
No, for sure.
It's an opportunity, and we're going to get to work together, okay, buddy?
Beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
Jordan, you hear me, man?
All right, I wanted to show y'all that I'll probably get that clip out this week on TikTok just to show you that a lot of people tried to say the Browns were not excited about when they drafted Shedeur, which you see that it's clearly not synced up when they're actually calling him. You see the owner right behind. He's always right up here behind Kevin. You don't see him really changing his viewpoint. You don't see him changing his stance or anything like that. I don't believe he had an issue with that. It's been reported that Andrew Berry was the one who wanted to go up and get Shedeur. And I actually found a sneak peek, and a lot of people missed this clip of when Shedeur kind of knew that the Browns are going for him. I'm going to get that put up for you. I should have had it, but let me get it put up here. And shout out to everybody for being here. Like and subscribe. Off the record deal on all platforms. Give me just one moment. Let's see. All right, so we're gonna go to. We'll get that up there for y'all. That's my X account. Follow me on X. I'm pretty active over there. Talk about a lot of things that are going on in sports as they happen live. Let's get that updated. Oh man, we got Game 7, so. Make sure we get to Game 7. All right, let me get this thing searched up for y'all real quick, though. Let me get this searched up. Actually, while I'm searching for this clip that I need, I want y'all to, I want to tell y'all about how I feel about the fights that happen in Times Square. Devin Haney, I was watching the Devin Haney fight yesterday, and coming out from his loss that they end up taking back to Ryan Garcia. Whoops. Hopefully y'all got me here. Coming off that loss, he looked very uncomfortable in the pocket. He looked like he was kind of moving and dancing around more than he needed to. He was a lot. He didn't look comfortable at all. Then Ryan Garcia, he took that hit. He took that double left hook. He was never the same. He never attacked after he got hit.
Say go, Uncle.
Let's see. Yes, sir.
Yay, clap. Come on. Say yay. Go, Uncle.
All right, so I'm going to find the spot.
Congratulations, Shedeur.
Dad was our agent, but Dad hasn't been working.
All right, we're going to get this pulled up. Yeah, I wanted to say that about the fight because I was like, man, it was kind of odd that they had it outside. They took different vehicles to the venue. That was kind of odd. I guess it was okay for an entrance, but just watching both fights, I was like, man, they both kind of looked like they were in there trying not to lose. And then Ryan Garcia, he just didn't attack enough, man. After he felt the power and got knocked down, he never really attacked. He kind of just was trying to go for, big left hand hooks, and he just didn't set him up with the jab. So it was just one of those things where I watched it, I was like, man, this is kind of tough to watch. So hopefully when they fight, if they still fight, because Haney won his fight by decision. Ryan lost his fight by decision, so I don't know if they're still gonna end up fighting because they're supposed to fight this summer, but we'll see what happens. Or probably, I think they said they're probably going to fight in July, but we'll see if it happens. Let me find a spot because there's a dead giveaway inside this moment when Shedeur was getting the call, and I haven't heard anybody speak on this.
Right here, glued to my.
Where you going, my boy?
I gotta step up and get something real quick. All right, bet.
Just people that just be in jail. I went in the meeting, like, who is it, Bobby Schmurda?
We're gonna get to work together, okay, buddy?
Yes, sir. Boy, you just got call. All right, y'all. So Miss Tyson got the boy. You just got call. You know what this feel like?
So I watched so much. I watched so many different things. I gotta find it. Let's see which video is in there. Is it in this
You know,
one?
I got my other brother right here too. Oh, yeah. Junior, stand up. Yeah. He does all that. Hello?
The person you're trying to reach is not available. At the tone.
The other stuff is just like. Hello?
So I can't find it, but so there was a call where I believe it was still in the 4th round, and Shedeur was on the phone with the lady, and she was saying how the Browns were trying to trade up because everybody they wanted was off the board. What video was it in that I saw this? I thought it was in this longer video, but
Say go, Uncle.
Yes, sir.
Yay, clap. Come on. Say yay. Go, Uncle.
The National Football League.
I went in the meeting.
We're gonna get to work together, okay, buddy?
For stuff like media hits and everything. So keep your phone on you, and then.
Hey, shallow stream on up there?
Yeah.
it was the lady who was just on the phone right there. I can't find it. I consume so much content when I'm just getting ready to do a show and do my breakdown. But I remember she was saying it was the 4th round, and she said everybody on the Browns board has been taken already. The Browns are trying to trade up to get you. I remember hearing that, and now I can't find it. So that's my bad, y'all. But I remember that situation happening, and I was like, all right. So they were saying that, oh, he didn't have an agent or anybody working on his behalf. But I was like, it was a person definitely working on his behalf. Also, as I was talking about the Cleveland, not just the Cleveland media, as I was talking about the media, another part of the media that's really going to have to look at how to report things is going to be like the Cleveland media. So the Cleveland media and a lot of people are taking shots at Shedeur Sanders, using his term legendary. So it's funny. So someone close to Shedeur actually put this up. They gave people the definition of legendary, which I think is funny. It's just someone that's real well known or famous, admired. So in many, it's funny. Let me just read it for y'all. Legendary, an adjective used to describe someone or something that is very famous, admired, and well known, often with a long history and many stories told about them. I think legendary fits Shedeur greatly. Just look at how the NFL used basically Shedeur Sanders slide in the draft to catapult their ratings. Ratings on day 2 and day 3 were up. So many people watch the draft who are not really into football. So many people are going to watch the Browns who are not Cleveland fans. So many people are buying Shedeur's jerseys. His jersey number hasn't even been announced yet. He hasn't had an introductory press conference yet. And it's just so much hype around him. So legendary is actually a very accurate term to describe him. I don't have any issues with him being described that way. Also, I saw that, trying to think all the things I found. It was one more. I wanted to find Shedeur Sanders speaking at the high school. Let's see. I might be able to find it on X. Let's see. It was funny because once I saw that the high school, it was him speaking at Marshall. It's on the west side. Let's see. Okay, here we go. This is the video over here. Let's go full screen.
So I just got to Cleveland. I just wanted to come out and see y'all. We working out every day. We got a purpose. We got something we trying to accomplish and achieve. But I'm trying to bring Cleveland, of course, a Super Bowl. What inspires me to keep going, I would say knowing I got a lot of people watching me, knowing that I'm a positive influence to the youth. That's why I say what keeps me going. So like,
all right, so it's funny how this was even talked about. How this was even talked about in the media. So Shedeur is already in Cleveland. He's already working out in Cleveland. You had people in Cleveland media who said, "Oh, he needs to stop posting." He's not posting these things. It's been reported that when they went to the school, the school asked him if they wanted to call the news to report the story. He was like, "Nah, that's okay." They put out their version of what happened. Someone close to Shedeur, not Shedeur. Shedeur didn't ask for it to be out. But, it's going to be something where all these phones are out. Everything is recorded. Hey, if, people close to me put it out, they put it out. Cool. One thing the Cleveland media didn't do, they didn't do any research on Shedeur. They took everything that the national media said about Shedeur and they just ran with it. Now, I've been following Shedeur since Jackson State, so I know that he periodically stops and speaks at different schools, and he will just give back to the youth for being an inspiration. So this is another reason why they're going to have to change how they. This is another reason why they're going to have to change how they report things about Shedeur, because Shedeur has. Let's pause this. Let me get this thought out. Shedeur has a big following. He has a lot of supporters. I'm calling him the people's champ so far. He's the people's quarterback. And you got to do your research when you're speaking on people, because you'll be called out. And this is when I was saying, oh, man, we're going to bring receipts about the draft. People are also bringing receipts about how he's doing these things in different places, and he's not the one that's putting out the information. He's not posting it to his social media. So you got to do your research before you just believe what the national media tells you, because they are already backing off what they said just a week ago. So this is him. This is in Boulder. He's going in.
Thank you. How y'all doing, though?
So you see, a lot of older people in the media, this is something that they don't really realize, because it was so long ago that they were in high school. These kids will remember this day for the rest of their lives. When he went to Marshall, those kids will remember that for the rest of their lives. He was out practicing, he was out practicing at another school in Cleveland, and he was on the field, and these guys just watched him from the football team. And afterwards, he took a picture with every single one of them. They're going to remember that for the rest of their lives. And in a time where social media is so prevalent, and you are closer to the people that you look up to and the people that you admire, it kind of changes your life when you actually get to see them, talk to them, take a picture with them. So they report this as a negative, but this is something that he's doing that's giving hope to people. And hope is not a strategy in business, but hope is a strategy in life for young children. They need to see examples of success. They need to see examples of how far they can go in life. And that's what he giving to people. And to try to report this in a negative light is just flat out wrong. And that's where Cleveland media has to step up. It was on ESPN. It was on ESPN Cleveland where somebody was saying, oh man, why does he have to post it? You don't have to post every time you're doing something. Looking at all these things, it's not him posting these things. It's all these other people who have the negative view of it. So It's just one of those things where I think a lot of people are going to have to update to the times. They're going to have to get with the times. They're going to have to get with how things are now. They're going to have to remember the people who are going to have receipts. They're going to have to remember it's a difference between off the field issues and popularity and attention. And just because Shedeur gets attention and he's popular, that does not mean he has off the field issues. The NFL also, the media who reports to NFL, they need to update how they use the English language. Off the field issues usually is tied to some legal problems. There were people in the draft who had legal problems. They were drafted. They weren't taken off these teams' boards. Multiple instances of things reported against them allegedly happening. They weren't taken off teams' board. But Coach Prime saying he wanted to steer where his son went to make sure he put him in a great situation. Shedeur was taken off 4 teams' boards because he's popular, because he brings attention. And they still try to tell you this old trope that, well, you don't want your backup quarterback to be getting attention. What they forget? If you are a fan of the NFL, what day does the backup quarterback get up and speak to the media? Don't worry, I'll wait. The starting quarterback speak to the media usually on Thursday, not the backup quarterback. So the media is going into the woods, starting a fire, running far away from it, and then saying there's smoke. That won't work. That will not work. That tactic is not going to work when now the things that you say, because you want the popularity and you want the reach, that you put things on social media that are captured that people can go back to. A week before the draft, Colin Cowherd would have traded TJ Watt, Pickens, and whatever else he needed to trade to get Shedeur. A week after the draft, oh man, Shedeur failed because he's a bad kid or he didn't take these interviews seriously. Which one is it? Which one is it? Daniel Jeremiah. Shedeur Sanders is great at quarterbacking. He's an overachiever. He delivers the ball where it needs to be. He stands in the pocket. A week after the draft, he doesn't have the arm talent. I don't know if he'll have a chance to be a backup. What? Does Brock Purdy have the strongest arm? Does Brock Purdy have all these athletic traits? Has he had success in the NFL? Is Tua this big athlete? Does Tua have the strongest arm? What is Tua's biggest gift? Accuracy, timing. Look at the Miami offense. It's all about accuracy and timing. It's all about getting one step in either direction to get the ball there from the receivers, tight ends, and running backs. That's why they get so much speed on Miami. This is when you will see that the media, their narrative blows like the wind. Blows like the wind. And if you notice, when I really started to focus more on sports, the reason why I started to focus more on sports was because I started to notice that the media, they were blowing like the wind and they weren't reporting full stories on situations, and they were changing how things are viewed in real time to get us to believe something that didn't happen. It's just like, an easy thing is to say, oh, LeBron's not clutch. And then you look up all the stats that have anything to do with clutch. And then you say, well, he doesn't pass the eye test. That's a Skip Bayless thing. The eye test. But then what do? They go, when the stats are there, they say the eye test isn't there. Then when the eye test is there, they go say, oh, well, the stat's not there. So they don't pick a side. They don't stand on that side. They don't have a philosophy for how they grade and do things. They don't have true philosophy with how they pick and acquire talent in the draft. They might as well be throwing darts. And that's the same thing that Florio told us. Florio told us, man, it don't matter. The draft is subjective. It don't matter if they do well. They'll just, next year is next year. We'll be back on to the next draft and we'll speculate about that one. And then we'll ruin another kid's opportunity to we'll cost another kid $20 million and then we'll just do it again the next year and nobody will hold us accountable for it. That's what they want to do. But the way things are going, we're not going to give them that opportunity to just keep blowing things in the wind like that. I think that's most of what I have on Shedeur. Lastly, I'll go in on some things with the Browns. Just looking at how this thing is going, there's been these hypothetical questions about, what are the Browns going to do with the 4 quarterbacks and all this. So I'm actually going to put what I think out there. I see the Browns going into the season with 3 quarterbacks. I don't see them carrying 4. I think that Kenny Pickett will be the odd man out. And the reason why I think Kenny Pickett will be the odd man out is because I think that the Browns will give the rookies more room to grow, to see what they have this year. And I think that they know that Joe Flacco can run the offense. I don't see them getting rid of Joe Flacco because they know, hey, we can always go to him. We can buy some time before we want the rookies to play and see what they have. And then also, let me get this. So it's gonna be sports all in the back of my clips. Let me click here. Also, they got the Browns at to win 4.5 games in Vegas. I'm taking Browns 5 games. I don't know if the Browns will win more than 5 games. I'm taking us 5 games to win next year. And part of that is because I think that they want to get the answer at quarterback. And I think that they're going to, go with Flacco to start, and then they're going to allow both rookies the opportunity to get on the field and start to see what they have. And I think that's just not going to lead to a team that's pushing for playoffs. I could be wrong. I would love to see us make the playoffs, but I know last year I went into the year looking for things to go one way. Then very quickly I had to pivot and say, hey, we're not going to win a lot of games. So that's my way too early take before rookie minicamp. We got that coming up next weekend. We'll be right in the middle of that for next weekend show. Hopefully we get some updates. We'll see what number Shedeur is going to be with his top selling rookie jersey. So that'll be pretty interesting. We'll actually get to hear from him officially. We'll get to hear from Dylan Gabriel officially. So that'll be pretty cool. But hopefully y'all enjoyed this. Y'all enjoyed this show. Y'all enjoyed the breakdown of everything I went through. I enjoyed getting these things off my chest. It's part of the reason why I do this weekly. You can find me on Twitch, X, TikTok, Off the Record D, YouTube, Off the Record D. YouTube is where starting on Sundays, I'll get the full length video out. It'll be podcast style. I won't put the clips in there just because YouTube is kind of funny with that. So what I'll do is I'll just have me speaking and you'll be able to listen to it. If you just want to, listen and ride or do some work or anything like that. I'll stick to TikTok for the clips. Pretty good response over there. So look for the clips on TikTok, full episode on YouTube, and then closer to the season, we'll get full podcasts on Spotify and Apple or anywhere you get your podcast. So shout out to everybody for being here. I appreciate y'all. It's been a great episode. I'll see you next week. Peace.